Hello, podcast listeners, and all the people watching at home on YouTube. Welcome to the Forest School podcast. I am Lewis and Wem, and I will be joined later on by my co-host Wem Sutherland. Today we are diving into a topic that is core to the Forest School pedagogy, and that is creating non-judgmental spaces. We're going to be looking at how can you make truly non-judgmental environments without compromising on things like safety and boundaries. What impacts do judgments have on spaces, and how can you make them safe and nurturing? And we're also going to be looking at how we as educators and parents can model non-judgmental behaviour effectively. So pop on your headphones, give us a watch on YouTube, and let's get into the episode.
Yo, yo, yo,
Judgment
yo, yo.
Day.
It's dong.
Dong.
I judge you to be pants. Not you listening.
You judge me? What?
Sorry. I was being a voice of judgment, and the only word I could think of that was really judgmental was pants, which is a very 90s word, isn't it?
Absolutely pants.
That's pants.
No, do you know what's really 90s? It's
What?
going like, oh my god, I judge you as so great. Not.
Oh,
It's like peak 90s humour.
yes, it is.
Not. This is a follow-on. We've literally just stopped the recording. Said, shall we carry on?
It's because we went into some different water, didn't we, from the last podcast, and so we were like, this needs an episode all to itself.
Mm-hmm. So, broadly, when following on from our conversation about facilitating, making adults be friends, but also, well, can I say the title of what I'd written down before, which was, can you hold a non-judgmental space when judgments are brought inside? Like when are you putting a stone on your eye?
I wondered how long you would take to notice. I was like, are you going to use any of this for the video, like little bits? Because I've got a stone in my eye. Feels really
It's a big stone. It's like an avocado, like not an avocado stone,
This is
an
my special
avocado-sized stone.
This is my special fiddle stone. I'm really sorry.
I'm sorry. Have I told you about when my friend at uni, she was a masseuse, and she had to learn how to do like hot and cold stone massages.
Uh-huh.
But so it was really like, she was like, I need bodies to do it on.
Yeah.
Will you come and do this thing? So if anybody's, like, oh, my time at uni was really hard. I did a music degree, which involved absolutely fuck all. And I had a friend that was like, will you come and have a massage like twice a month?
Oh.
Boo-hoo.
Hot times.
Yeah. But so she wouldn't do all of the like low lighting and, music and all that stuff. It was quite like, I need to do this. Okay, I'm looking at my notebook. Da, 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 da. But she would do the thing where she would put like stones on my stomach. And there was one where she used to put them like in my hands or like on my legs. And when she would go and check her notebook, I would hide the stone. Because the whole point of it was that like, so she'd like put a stone in each hand.
Yeah.
And then go like, okay, so that goes off, and then I sort of do something on the feet, and then I come back 5 minutes later and I take away the stones. Now they've cooled down, and I would like hide them under my knees, or like just put them under the towel on the thing. I mean, I don't know why. It's like Big Brother energy of just like, yes. I'm just going to be slightly annoying about this. You're doing an incredibly generous thing to me, and I have to slightly be like, pick. Hey everybody, we've got some exciting things planned exclusively for our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/The Forest School Podcast. If you want more in-depth discussions, bonus episodes and other exclusive content, head over to our Patreon and support the podcast. You won't want to miss it. Patreon.com/The Forest School Podcast. I'm going to do silly things. I'm going to do this.
Did she say, where's the stone? And did you say, I ate it?
No, from memory, she would just go, Lewis, and slightly like whack me, which did like take away somewhat from the sparring experience.
Oh my goodness. How many rocks do you estimate are in your house right now?
In my house?
Yeah.
A small gravel pit's worth. I have two children who show their love like penguins.
Yeah.
Not like the penguin podcast we did with Lizzie.
No.
Like here is a cool rock.
Yeah.
That's how I show, love. I imagine you have loads in your house.
I do have loads in my house, but it's all from me. It's not from my children. Actually, no, my children have brought me cool rocks because they think I'll like them.
I want some big rocks. I want like
Crystals.
no. I want rocks that are the size of a 3-year-old
Oh,
that I can
yeah.
only just lift, and I want those in my garden. I want some like fuck off rocks, but I don't know how to get them because if they're big enough that I can only just pick them up. Strong as I am, I can't drive
A
my
quarry,
car. I
apparently.
can't drive up to Dartmoor and just like fucking lift in some stones.
And that would probably be illegal.
Yeah, just
I
me
think
backing the truck up to Stonehenge.
exactly. Not done. I think I might actually have enough stones from certain beaches to be illegal.
Constitute a lawsuit.
I think maybe. I feel guilty, but I can't stop. Maybe I'll...
Okay, that's the sticker from this episode. It's a picture of a hand picking up a rock, and it says, "I feel guilty, but I can't stop."
Because they're so beautiful.
They are.
I can't leave them.
Yeah, but
What
did
will
you see the thing
happen
I
if I
sent
leave
about?
them?
Do you see the thing I sent about working rocks?
Yes, that was really good.
So it was somebody saying like, if you have a kid or a Wem that picks up rocks everywhere, but they're like in a gravel path, you can make the differentiation and be like, these rocks are working. They're being a path for everybody. The rocks at the beach, they're ones we can take. They're ones we can search through. But if we go somewhere, then these are working rocks and they need to stay here to do their job. And I liked that. I liked it.
I love it.
I liked it. Fuck, we
Sorry,
should talk
yes.
about the
This is way more important, listeners. You need to know about rocks. No. Judge. Okay, so we're discussing this idea that we want to create a non-judgmental space, a non-judgmental environment, a place where people feel safe from judgment, are free to express themselves with whatever level of honesty and integrity that they would like to, without the fear of shame, guilt, judgment. Judgment. Yes, so I think you and I are agreed that that is one of our big aims.
Oh, lives in the core of my body.
With our setting.
Yeah.
That is, I guess, the key to being one of the keys to being inclusive and to creating a safe space. And that one might argue that that is how you create a community of learning, to use the kind of forest school training terminology.
Yeah.
A place
we've talked before about like cultural kombucha, in that like non-judgmental approaches and communities is one of those things where like if you imbue a group of people with it and build a community, when some of that community move on and new people come in, there is already, like when you make kombucha or you make anything sort of kind of, there's this like Scooby, this mother Scoob that then permeates these new people faster, or they are exposed to it in a different way. And I think non-judgmental approaches definitely fits in that like cultural kombucha kind of mindset. And I think it is something that I wrestle with a lot in my own head, because I was talking to you the other day and I was being very honest, and I was talking about my personal drive towards staticness, my drive towards like that now is no longer like my drive towards like I just want to find the right shirts to wear for the rest of my life. I just want to find the house that I live in for the rest of my life, and the faster I can do that thing, the happier I will be, because it takes things off my plate. And I have this drive for like solve them permanently. And so I think if I am unconsciously doing things, that is also my drive for non-judgmental communities, is I have this mindset of like, once I set it up, then it's done.
Right.
And that is a false kind of like expectation. That is unrealistic to expect that I can somehow facilitate a cultural belief and that just somehow new people will join and they'll just have it. No. It makes more sense in that the cultural kombucha thing, I think is a good metaphor, because like brewing kombucha, you would you would take out 80% of the kombucha, so you've got this like starter for the next lot, and you bring in stuff that is unfermented and you let it ferment, and then some of that moves on and you get new stuff in, and that stuff has to be fermented. And that is how I am trying to, not that our people are like, our groups are fermented, but like, do you know what I mean? I think there's a mindset that I really am working on personally holding, that is like, like non-judgmental approaches is the one that we're talking about, and like going like, that's something that I'm going to have to keep facilitating and keep working towards forever. It doesn't
Yes.
get done.
And also to accept that some people don't want to be there, or aren't able to embrace that, or don't feel safe in that, and just can't. And that is a learning. And that's really hard, because if you believe in something, it's one of your core principles, you might say, then that's quite challenging when people arrive in the space and they don't grasp that, no matter how fermenty it is, or they're not able to, or they don't believe in it, and they don't share that core belief. That is, and I think it's healthy to be challenged, because I think that helps you to either work out if that really is a core belief of your own, or if actually you want to shift it somehow, or make allowances, or it becomes more fluid, rather than everyone just going, yeah, sure, that's correct, you should definitely do that. I was thinking about like, what do we actually mean by a non-judgmental space? Because the thing that comes into mind straight away is that like, people won't be criticized, or people won't be made to feel shame. People like, it's okay to make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, all those kind of things. But I think there's a flip side to that, which we used to talk about a lot more in the earlier days of our practice, which is about moving away from like praise and rewards, because that's also judgmental. That's also going, yes, that is what I want. That is the good thing. You're doing the good thing there. And that is also part of a judgmental approach, that you're labeling some things as good.
And that exists in the outdoor world. Lots of places that might be purporting to be non-judgmental might still also be praising or like going like, we go out in all weathers because we're the best. We love getting muddy. We are, like hardcore. Like, we love this thing. Our groups are like, all of those things are judgments, and they are like, they will have an effect on a group, on a community, on whether everybody feels welcome.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to acknowledge that we all do it. Like, we all have
Absolutely.
an inner judge, whether it's judging other people for being different from ourselves and our way of seeing the world, or judging ourselves and going, oh, that wasn't good enough, that was bad, or I am good at this, those kind of like
there's
opposite,
evaluative
like
statements.
Thing. So we can't like all pretend to be like, oh, I'm just so neutral and accepting of everything.
No, but I think there is something with reflecting, and I'm talking about people of all ages now, where there is something that you can facilitate. There's some like developmental learning that you can facilitate, I think, in a forest school space, which is the difference between an opinion, like a declarative opinion, versus a judgment. In that you can have opinions on things. You can have opinions on, like, children can have opinions on what games are fun or not fun, but that is very different to going, only babies want to play that game. Those are two things that, to foster some awareness of like, what is the difference between stating your opinion or your preferences on a thing versus judging other people as like, the best people are the people that do X, or
100%.
Not on my team. Those people are the other team. And I think maybe less so with younger people, but as children become teenagers and older, sometimes people have gone a very long time not necessarily having that differentiation pointed out to them or scaffolded, and so they might be of the opinion, they might be of the mindset that they are someone who shares their opinions on things. We want to take a moment to thank all of our amazing supporters over on patreon.com/The Forest School Podcast. Your contributions over there make a huge difference and help us to continue providing all these incredible episodes that we put out for you guys. If you're not already a supporter yet, head to patreon.com/The Forest School Podcast and contribute at whatever level you can to help us grow the podcast and support this work. And it can be quite difficult to reflect back to someone that what they are doing is judging, and how you have to approach that in a way of either, and this is something that individual forest school leaders will need to decide their own practice on. Do they want to go at it through modeling and just go like, I'm just going to show them how I talk. I'm just going to show them how I'm holding the space. And some of that will get through modeling and osmosis. Do they think that particular forest school leader wants to have a more direct conversation and say, hey, I just wanted to say that, like, one of the things we're trying to hold here is this non-judgmental thing. When we were talking about this earlier, I felt a little bit uncomfortable because some people were getting thrown under the bus, and I wondered if in future we could talk about it in this kind of context, so that we could say how we feel, but without judging other people, or some other way of approaching it. But that is definitely something that individual leaders and individual settings will need to go, okay, factoring in this, and this. Here's my plan for growing some non-judgmental community.
Yeah, I think that was a really nice example that you just used, and a nice way of phrasing it, because there's definitely a danger, I think, whenever I'm kind of thinking, how am I going to create this non-judgmental space with people who aren't necessarily in that place themselves. I'm very aware that if I start trying to communicate, like, I don't want that here. I'm judging them. I'm going, I noticed that you did a thing that I didn't like. Can you not do that because it's bad? Like, that's the ultimate judgment, isn't it? And making them feel really not. Yeah.
The second bit of that is if you can go to someone and earnestly, without expectation, so like in a full declarative way, go, I just wanted to let you know that the way you were talking about this kind of group made me feel quite uncomfortable. Either I'm in that group or I know people in that group. That's to me, that's a feedback kind of like empathy type approach of like, I'm offering you an opportunity to reflect on how you have spoken. The second bit of what you said, where you went, I didn't like that because it's bad. That's the judgment bit. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's important to differentiate those two things because they are different, and because different different settings and situations will call for different responses, and different relationships that you have with people will mean that you might not feel comfortable saying the first one of like, you're making me feel uncomfortable. You might feel like the only way you can do this is, through modeling or through kind of like some other means. It's very difficult.
There's a kind of really challenging element to this potentially, where what we might say, we want to create a really safe space where people can really share what they really think, and then people do share what they really think, and you're like, oh, not that though, because that is
oh shit,
racist, sexist, ableist, and you're like, oh, right.
I'm going to disagree on a point there, though.
Now?
I'm going to disagree on a point, because I don't know that I wholly hold the. I don't know that my goal is to set up a space where people can say exactly how they feel about everything. I actually don't think that's something that I'm personally holding as a North Star. I think I am more interested in facilitating a space where people can feel comfortable and where people can feel authentic, but that does not necessarily include with that the rights, the ability to say whatever you want. Do you know?
Yeah, I completely know what you mean. And it's that argument that comes up about freedom of speech, isn't it? And you could probably draw a line there in terms of, if you were kind of trying to make people feel safe and create an environment where people could share things that were important to them. But if you are inciting hatred in that, that is a no-go. Lines in the sand where it's like, yes, except this. And it's about...
The only thing that tolerance can't abide is intolerance.
Yes.
That's the thing, isn't it? You cannot allow... If you want a tolerant community, you cannot allow intolerance. And that sounds like what's the word? Like a juxtaposition... But that's the only way that you can facilitate things.
You're making it safe for everybody. It's not about, there's this thing about the individual versus community, isn't it? That it's not just about individual expression and individual freedom and individuals feeling safe. It's about being in community with other people. So your right to express what makes you feel like you need to, share things and feel free to do that, can't make somebody else feel unsafe and like they don't want to be there anymore. That's not okay. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, I think I'm going to follow on what you just said about because if your goal is to make a space in which people feel non-judgmental and safe, if one of the things that that somebody needs to feel safe is the ability to judge people, like that's something they need for safety, is to throw that, then there's other stuff going on that, like, maybe this forest school place isn't the right place, but actually broader than that, there's some stuff to unpick there, which forest school is not a panacea. It is not the solution to everything. If the only way you can feel safe is by attacking, there is other stuff to go look at. Hey, did you know you can become part of the Forest School Podcast community by joining us over on patreon.com/the Forest School Podcast? You'll get exclusive access to behind the scenes content, have a chance to connect with us and with other listeners. Head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/the Forest School Podcast to find out more about what we're offering over there. So, putting a pause on that for a second, one of the things that I wanted to reflect on with you is, I think you and I both hold what I'm about to say to be true, which is that, that thing, I forget who said it to us now, but somebody said, if you have a cut with a whittling knife, that cut is basically starting to heal itself again the second the knife has gone away. Like a clean, thin cut starts to heal very quickly. If you have an accident with an axe, you're going to A&E with a thumb in a bag of milk type thing. Or a bag of rice or whatever. No, I was going to say. I've just done my first aid like 3 months ago. Adrian, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Do not put a bleeding thumb in a bag of milk.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
Thumb milkshakes aside. I think you and I both hold that the effect of being judged in a space where you felt safe is so impactful that it is like some stuff you can let go for a bit. You're right. You've got a kid that likes to do rough and tumble play with people. You can do over multiple sessions. Like, we are working on rough and tumble play. Everybody is safe, but they might still do unsolicited rough and tumble play, and we're working towards that. My personal feeling is like the impact of a very judgmental statement going out into a community might mean some people never come back emotionally or physically. They might not come back to the space. So, like, I think non-judgmental approaches, if we're writing out a risk-benefit analysis here, the risk for me feels very high, especially in a space, and it feels higher the more safe the space is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? The more someone has let their guard down in a space and gone,
Mm-hmm.
this is a community in which I feel safe. I you know, let's use ours. Lewis and Wem have modelled this non-judgmental approach, and this and this and this, and then, you know, a new kid arrives in the group, or, you know, the adults that are in the group changes, and a judgmental statement goes out.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that can really rock people.
Mm.
Really rock people. And so when we're thinking about this, like, how do you allow a judgmental idea into a non-judgmental space? That's what I'm holding, I think, inside, is like, fuck, if this if this goes wrong, the
Yeah.
risk is super high.
I want to say something about also though, like when people feel a statement as a judgment, even if it wasn't intended to be one. So,
Oh, okay, say more about that.
well, I was thinking about there was a time when in our young families group, I can't remember how it started, but in the morning circle, we were talking about a particular issue that was relevant to forest school. Like, you might notice that we have this approach to sharing, for example. We just want to
Sure.
explain why we have that and where it came from, because it's a bit different to maybe other places that you might go.
Sure.
And we got some feedback from people that was like, oh, can you do that again? Because that's really interesting. And I don't hear that. And it's, you know, and we were, I mean, it's not a parenting course. It's not a cool. No, we were just
No, that's not the
explaining.
expectation that people
No,
come to.
we were
You know, it
explaining
was
our ethos and our approach because sometimes it's a bit unconventional. But I want, but well, there are times where people might hear those things and then go, "Oh God," like, or like the way, you know, that we speak to participants or something, and people might hear that and go, "Oh God, I don't do that. I'm bad." Do you know what I mean? So they are
yeah,
hearing
yeah.
that as a judgment, like, I don't conform to this ethos, or I used to not conform to this ethos, or God, you know, I
Even
said
if you
that
weren't
to
attending
my.
it, they then like self-judge against the
Mm,
yardstick that you've put out.
exactly. And then they might take home, I don't belong here because I haven't always spoken to my kid in that way. So that's another challenge, that through being clear about what you want the group to be like, you then want to somehow also be clear that everyone is welcome, even if they haven't always been that way. Do you know what I mean? I'm putting that really
Yes,
badly.
no, I do know what you mean. And I think you and I have both become more practiced at, when we are explaining things like that are like ethosy things, or like processy type things, I might call it, you know, like turn taking, sharing is a really good example, that we have become, I think, more practiced at putting in all of the like softening and the caveats and the like, we didn't always think this, and we know that sometimes this stuff can just come out. You know, we talk about like unconditional relationships sometimes when we're doing, you know, in the level 3 courses and stuff, and we are full of the caveats of like, obviously we all get this wrong from time to time. We were, you know, we're telling you like what we're aiming for, rather than, I think, a while ago, you know, years and years ago, you and I might have been like slightly more high status about it, and more like, we are this and this is what we always do,
And this
and
is the
we're
best
holding,
thing
and this is the
because of
best
this.
thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, now I think we're much more practiced, and that is part of the non-judgmental approach, is holding that and modeling that and going like, look, we all cock this up. I did it the other day with my kid, or look, this happens sometimes, or like, this is what I'm, you know, rather than framing it like, this is how we talk to people. It's like, this is kind of my goal. Obviously, sometimes that goes out the window when I am tired, or when I am whatever, you know. We are also modeling that non-judgmentalness towards ourself,
Yep.
in a
Yep.
hope that we can confer to the people in the group that they also should not be judging themselves, because they're
Yes.
bad, horrible people if they judge themselves. And
Exactly.
they're
Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm trying to do that with kids more as well, in terms of like, if I do something that goes wrong or doesn't work out the way I want to, like trying to own that without judgment, and that's really hard. So to say, that went differently to how I had hoped, that's okay. or rather than
Yeah.
because we might also want to model, it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to fail at things, and therefore we might go, I really messed that up, didn't I? Silly me. Like that's quite a common, I think, adult response to I want to model that adults would get things wrong too. I've definitely done that in terms of like, I want to play low status, I want to show you that I'm trying this new thing and I'm not necessarily better than you because I'm an adult. I'm also crap at that thing. But if I'm using the word crap at that thing, or silly me, or I met what a donut, I messed that up, didn't I? That is modelling real self-judgment. So yes, you're playing low status, but it's not great modelling about self-talk.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I've had a thought.
Go on.
I can hold it though.
No, go on. I'm done.
Oh yeah. Okay. Just you mentioning like silly me, silly thing. Okay. So I want to talk about, this is a sideline of non-judgmental approaches, which is that I am acutely aware of judgmental approaches to non-human entities.
Oh yeah.
And what it confers when like someone trips over the bench and the adults around them go, naughty bench, why don't you kick it? Holy shit, what kind of modelling is this? Like, like, or like, and okay, so that's one level, which is like naughty bench,
but listeners, if you've ever done that, we're not judging you.
Oh, of course not, right? I'm being silly. I'm just saying, I'm just saying,
silly
like,
you,
silly me. But that is a go-to response, isn't it? Because sometimes that makes people feel better when they've tripped over and stubbed their toe. It makes them feel better that they can take it out on a bench. You can whack the bench. The bench has no feelings, is not animate. But I think I'm just like aware of what that does in terms of modelling, and the words that we're putting out and everything. But then I do think it hits slightly differently for me when it's like naughty tree, or like because I immediately look. It's not. I don't do this. But my gut response is that I want to like lawyer up on the side of nature. Like I want to be the lawyer for the tree and go, I think you'll find my client was entirely still and that the perpetrator ran into my client unwittingly and with full intent. Like I want to suddenly argue on the side of like
I really want to see you doing that. I'm already seeing you doing that in my mind.
Like,
but I want you to whip a wig out of your pocket,
full barrister's wig, and like a gown,
absolutely,
and be like, "This accusation against my client is frivolous. These spikes on the brambles did nothing. My client willingly pushed their shins into them."
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
That's the silly petty response I want to have. But like, you know what I mean about like judgment of inanimate things.
Definitely. And I think there's actually a list of words that, having probably used all of them frequently as a younger adult, now literally make me flinch. And naughty. Anyone saying anything, anyone is naughty.
I've never said the word naughty in my life because
well done you.
No, because
it's so
adult
horrible.
connotations.
Oh right, okay. Like I just hear it used in any context and I flinch. Other kids use it about other kids, and it
and then follow on there. There's things, aren't there, that don't necessarily seem like judgments because they seem like they're based on compassion, which is like, that's unkind. That's naughty is one of those things, but like that's unkind, that's selfish, that's whatever. Like it might feel like you're giving feedback, but it is a judgment, of all those things. It's very hard to unpick this like non-judgmental stuff without it becoming because I think the other side of that coin, the other side of that like spectrum coin, whatever metaphor works in this scenario, is permissiveness. Is like, we're so non-judgmental. Oh, you've punched one of my canines out. Okay, I can get another one. Oh, that's fine. No, my arteries needed to be a little bit more open. I don't want to judge. That's, I think, the perception people have of non-judgmental things, which is not the same.
No, it's not the same, and it doesn't mean that you can't, not you, Lewis, but one can't express
I think you'll
one's
find
feelings. Yeah. So, and that kind of comes back to non-violent communication and just ways of communicating how you're feeling and what you need or what you want. If you listeners don't know what I'm on about, we've done an episode on the podcast on that. But that instead of, I mean, I'm trying to think of, I don't know if there's like a statement that is judgmental that can't be replaced with some kind of like I statement, whether that be an I'm wondering if this or I feel this, which is not judgmental, it's just honest. Do you know what I mean? So like,
Sorry, I stopped listening because I was looking up barristers' wigs. They're 18 quid.
Oh, Lewis, I was talking about something really important.
Sorry, tell me again.
I feel judged. No. Oh, I don't know what I was saying.
There were statements. You were saying statements that you can't replace.
Okay, so
I'm listening now.
Like, that was naughty.
Yeah.
Is a judgmental statement.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you did that, that person felt sad, or I'm wondering how that person felt when you kicked them in the shins, or I can't let you kick them in the shins.
I see they're bleeding out.
I think we might need to stop in a minute because we're getting a bit silly. My stone tells me it's time to stop. My stone, yes, stone. You know what I'm saying, though.
I do know what you're saying. You can convey the same information and foster the same relationships without judgment.
And without being permissive at the same time, you know, by sticking to boundaries, I guess, or like holding the space in a safe way.
The big crux of this is like, is like overarching, and maybe this is another episode for when we're not feeling so silly, but it's like, is ethos something just you have to model as the leader, or is it something that participants have to buy into? That's maybe a whole nother topic, like a whole nother episode, I mean, but maybe we'll get there when we're not feeling quite so silly.
Yeah,
guys, drop us a comment on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, theforestschoolpodcast.com, patreon.com/theforestschoolpodcast. Starts at £2, about £2 a month, and we're doing loads of live stream stuff and behind the scene things. Massively appreciative of all the people that are over there on Patreon.
You can even use our SpeakPipe thing, where you can go on our website, forestschoolpodcast.com, and talk into a special little thing.
Yeah, it's like a little voicemail. We've had a few recently. System.
It's
so you can just press the play button and go. You know, we've had a few people get in touch who have got ideas for episodes who will hopefully be on future episodes.
Yes.
So yeah, get in touch. We would love to hear from you. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
I only go buy a barrister's wig. Thank you so much for joining us in today's episode. That brings us to the end. We've covered loads of ground. We covered this idea of cultural kombucha. It's quite hard to say. Cultural kombucha in building non-judgmental spaces. We talked about the power of language in shaping our learning environments. And if you want stuff to take away, then remember that creating a non-judgmental space is like an ongoing journey. And here's a few things that you can take away and try and put into practice yourself. So one is remembering to be reflective of our own inner judge. How are we doing? How is that self-talk going? Be mindful of the language that we use, especially stuff that might carry judgments. We all do it, and being open to hearing somebody saying that's a little bit more judgmental. Oh yeah, of course it is. I can go through that and model how to handle mistakes without self-judgment. No more of this, oh silly me, oh I'm stupid, oh my silly old brain, I'm just a silly old man, silly old lady, whatever you want to do. We would love to hear how you're applying all these ideas in your forest school, in your school, or if you're at home. Head to theforestschoolpodcast.com. You can get in touch with us there. You can find all the extra stuff. You can find out how to join us on Patreon as well. If you found this episode helpful, please consider sharing it with a friend. Recommendations are the lifeblood of podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode wherever you are. If you're listening on your podcast player, if you're watching on YouTube, it will help you get notified when the next episode comes up. Until next time, I'm Lewis Ames with Wem Sutherland. Thank you so much, and we will see you in the next episode of the Forest School Podcast.